Hi everyone, sorry for the iPhone camera, but this week's Midweek Cafe is getting a little bit long. So this week, for week 7, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about success because Eric asked me what my definition of success was. So let me just explain to you a little bit of my publishing background, which might help you understand how my definition of success has really changed. The first thing that I thought would be successful for me was to see my book on a shelf. And the underlying assumption of seeing my book on the shelf was that I would have published the one book that would skyrocket me into the career that I wanted, which was to write full-time and maybe even be a bestseller and be lauded and appreciated and all the things that we all probably secretly want. Well, I got to see my book on a shelf and it was wonderful, but then nothing really happened. I just published the next book and the next book and the next book. Some of them met with some acclaim, some of them did not. And so when it got to the point where I was publishing The Unnaturalists, there was a really tough thing that happened, and these are the kinds of things that no one really tells you when you're thinking about publishing. Barnes & Noble and my publisher, Simon & Schuster, got in a big fight. Barnes & Noble pulled all of the titles, Simon & Schuster titles, from their brick-and-mortar stores that were not bestsellers. So my books and many other authors' books were pulled. They would not allow customers to order those books into the store until basically Simon & Schuster acceded to their wishes. And so what that meant was my sales for that book probably really tanked because people see a book in a store and they pick it up, and that's how word of mouth spreads and stuff like that. So that was pretty devastating because when your sales numbers tank, a lot of times publishers don't necessarily want to take you on as much. It's a bit of a harder climb. However, I had already sold the Unnaturalist sequel to Simon & Schuster, but in the interim, I suffered a whole bunch of health problems. I herniated a disc in my back, my gallbladder went septic, and I had to have emergency surgery. I mean, it was a really nasty year. I can remember doing past proofs on The Unnaturalist after my back surgery, lying flat on my back with my knees up, trying to do copy edits on my knees because we had to do a deadline, and I was like so drugged up I don't even know how I did it. This is the kind of crazy stuff that sometimes happens. And with the Tinker King, the story just would not come. The pressure was intense. I was already really depressed about how the sales had not happened for me with Unnaturalist, and I just couldn't get the story to come. I was sick, and it was very late. It was almost a year late ultimately, and there was a weekend where I was desperately trying to finish it, and I stayed up all weekend trying to rewrite the end, which over the span of 3 months when we were really getting close to the deadline, I would turn in a draft. My editor would say, this is not right. I would chop out 30 or 40,000 words at the end of the book and rewrite them. I did that 3 times within 3 months. It broke me, I'll be honest. It really broke me. And when that book was done, I could not write. I was just broken. Couldn't do it. And then I also became a mom. And although everyone warned me, oh, when you become a mom, you're just not going to write at all, I didn't want to believe it. And I refused to let that be the case. And by the end of my maternity leave, I was actually feeling more like I did want to write again. And I did start kind of picking up some projects that I had left by the wayside and all that kind of stuff. And then, I actually had a project that my previous agent took out and it didn't sell. And, that was kind of the end of that. So all of that goes to say that my definition of success changed very much. And it was no longer about external validation or being published or anything like that. It was about making the best story that I possibly could and satisfying myself and my sort of internal need to create. And that is where I am right now. I am writing the story that I have wanted to write for years. I am very happy. I am longing to get it published, of course, if people want it. But if they don't want it, that's okay too, because I will likely just self-publish it. And that's okay. I believe actually that authors will probably be a mix of traditional and indie publishing. And I'm eager to explore the other side of it because I don't know much about indie, truthfully. But that's what success means to me. Success is no longer about dollars or about external validation or anything like that. Now, I have my goals and I have my dreams. I mean, I know what I want to achieve, but I also know that I can only control what I can control, and that is producing the work, the best work that I can, the story that I want to tell, learning every day how to become a better writer. I don't think that should ever stop, no matter what level you are at. And that's what success means to me. Like recently, I was working on a novella that I had been working on for the last year. I desperately wanted to submit it, and I wanted to meet a deadline. It was important to me to finish the story and meet a deadline and submit it. And that is all. I have, as far as I care, as far as I know, I have been successful. Even if the publisher decides not to publish it, I am a success because I met the goal that I can control, which was I finished the story to the best of my ability, and then I submitted it on time. And I think that's really all that we can ask of ourselves. We can position ourselves as best we can and control the things that we can control. But to me, it's really about the story. It's not about the glory. It's all about the story. And that is where I will leave you with my feelings on success. Have a great week.